Does that sound good?
Whatever you say, Mr. Milchick. Praise Kier.
Every week, Patrick Klepek, I like to bring you some wild, unhinged theory and see how you react to it, right? But this week, there's been a lot of chatter online about Mark's possible connection to the Egan family. And so here is like the theory as best I understand it, or one version of the theory is that Mark is the reincarnation of Kier Egan. Right? That he is somehow a re-embodiment of Kier Egan. Maybe he's related to Kier Egan in some way, but like that he is somehow like connected to Kier in a really potent way. What are some reasons why people think this? First of all, there's some very similar imagery that we saw last week of Mark at the Ortbo to the visuals we see of Kier in some of the animations that play in seasons 1 of like Kier standing on the mountain looking over the forest, and it's very similar to the shot we see of Mark standing at the cliff and looking over and it's like, oh, is the show trying to draw a visual parallel between these two? I mean, I think the show is definitely trying to draw a visual parallel. The question is that visual parallel literal in any way? Who knows?
Right.
But that's one component to it. Another component is this would explain why Miss Cobel was so obsessed with Mark. Like, why would she follow him around and ingratiate herself with people in his life and basically be like unhealthily obsessed with him? We know that Miss Cobel was obsessed with Kier as well, right? Like you saw her room and all the religious knickknacks, everything, and she knows all the words to the songs and everything. And so maybe Mark's connection to Kier, right, being a long lost grandson, being Kier's reincarnation, being Kier's clone, like whatever, maybe that's the reason why Miss Cobel was so obsessed. The other component to mention, I guess, would be that like a lot of people have speculated that like Helly is pregnant now because Mark and Helly have had sex, and that maybe this is all part of some grander plan of like bringing forth the next generation of Egan whatevers,
Yeah,
so
sex didn't seem planned.
yeah, I think that's probably true, but you never know. So yeah, there's
we
a
do
Reddit
have
thread.
a little, Kier baby at the end of the Severance 2
right.
intro, which returned in this episode. And so you mentioned when we discussed that the creation, the design inspiration for that introduction, what meanings are there. We got every sense that the designer is not getting special insight into the future of the show, is instead just sort of given kind of a large latitude to work with, but also some specific ideas from the creator. I think it was Ben Stiller who said, oh, like we should have babies, like a lot of babies in there. And so, it's that certainly lends some credence to why you may speculate in the direction, but baby could also really fit into the reincarnation category as opposed to a literal child that now is growing inside.
Right. There's a lot of babies in the Severance season 2 intro.
Yeah.
And obviously the babies could signify fertility of some kind, and that there's something like going on there. So anyway, that's the presentation. Mark is the reincarnation of Kier. What do you think, Patrick Klepek?
Well, we've talked many times that there is probably some, like, it would not be shocking if the ultimate goal of this company was some sort of reincarnation of Kier, like whatever manifestation that might take, that the whole project here is in some way related to a revival of Kier in some capacity. So I buy that. I don't know that I buy the Mark is reincarnation of Kier. I mean, I can buy a version of like a resolution of this show that is about like supplanting the consciousnesses of these characters we know with other, like is somehow part of the project of Lumon to like insert people, like digitize consciousnesses that are going to be inserted into bodies. And I don't know, like I can see that, but I don't know that I subscribe to the Mark as a literal reincarnation of Kier. at this time. So I
Cup-
have to say thumbs down to the theory at the moment.
Well, a couple of the only other thing I want to mention is that obviously Mark is incredibly important to the work.
Right. We still don't quite understand we don't know the why on
right.
that.
The macro data but I'm just saying, like, this would also answer that question of, like, it needs to be somebody that is infused with the essence of Kier or reincarnation of Kier or somehow connected to Kier in some way, and that's why it has to be Mark and no one else.
Well, and is Mark special, or is just Mark the closest to the finish line? You know what I mean? Like that is also something we don't really know. It's like we you know, as we'll get into, we find out his percentage completion. We're in the low 80s, 81%, I believe, in terms of completing Cold Harbor, whatever that ends up being. But it's unclear to me, at least in this point in the show, unless you feel otherwise, that is Mark special, or is just like, and I mean special in like a reincarnation of Kier way, or just, oh, he's special because he's the closest to the finish line,
right?
Thus, the closest to completing. You know, I think as one, you know, like the bodyguard sort of puts it, like a project that they claim is going to be one of the most important like moments in human history.
Apparently, during an interview, Dan Erickson did say that Mark is Miss Cobel's golden boy because of his great work on his first file, Allentown. Right. I'm reading here from Reddit, and so. That basically what you're saying is like maybe it's just he's the best, and it doesn't have to do with whether or not he's reincarnated or anything like that.
Like his special sort of like personal trauma and like what he's working out, like
perhaps
like a certain type of person like lends them to be like perfect for the sort of setup on the, you know, in the MDR department.
But it does seem as though the board of Lumon is heavily invested in giving Mark what he wants, even potentially endangering the heir to the company in order to do so. So, you know, does seem to indicate, like, it's one thing if it's like, okay, this guy's a really good macro data refiner. It's another thing of like, we're willing to like send our heir down into the bowels of hell to work with you because it means you're going to get the work done faster. Like, you know, there might be something special to Mark. Is all I'm saying. All I'm suggesting. All right. Anyway, if you're watching this on YouTube, let us know in the comments what you think. Is Mark the reincarnation of Kier? Prove me wrong, world. Prove me
Never
wrong.
happened before.
Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.